Okay guys, today we're going to look at framing and measuring. So whenever you're looking at a still life, you need to go, well, where does stuff end up? What stuff meets where? So we know this apple is not bigger than this here. This little jar here. This apple is not bigger than this. So you would not draw this apple bigger than this. So the apple would be my starting point if I were to draw. Now you'll notice these little lines here on this photograph. Well, that is also where you would measure at. So the bottom of this, where does it end up on the apple? Well, the apple extends further down than this does. So the bottom of that will not extend past this apple. But you also have to look at this one here. This box here. Now this blue line goes behind the apple, of course. We don't normally draw it, but we know it's there. So this line right here goes to approximately here on the apple. Should we draw it down here? No. That's not where it's at. Should we draw it up here? No, that's way too far up. We draw it right here, about halfway down the apple. So from here to here, it's almost halfway. That's where we would draw it. We wouldn't draw it all the way up here because that's not where it's at. It's not almost to the top. It's not almost to the bottom either. It's not level with the bottom of this. So, now that we've got that little box here, and it's just a box, it's a cube, we can go, well, where does the top of the jar, right in here, the lid of the jar go? Well, it does not touch the apple. So, you will never draw it coming down here, touching the top of the apple, because it's not touching the top, it's above it. So you have to go, well, let's do a little bit above it. Not a lot, just a little bit. If it's like this, it's still not quite accurate. It's not touching the apple, but this gap right here to here isn't far enough. So what you can do is hold your pencil at the top here, hold it horizontally, and see how far is the distance. So I can do a physical demonstration of that. I wish I could do that. I'll probably do another video where I'm doing it physically. It's kind of hard to do because depending on perspective, this distance can change. So that's why whenever you're doing a still life, you stay in the same spot every single time, and it has to stay in the same spot so you can keep accuracy. That's why we'll often, of our still lifes, we'll take photographs. So you just have to lay your pencil down. Say the end of the pencil's here, the eraser, and then the point of the pencil's here. You just lay it flat and go, oh, that's how far up from the apple this goes. So you can draw like a little guiding line, and then you can start drawing in this. You know that it will start here and stop here. You know that the bottom is curved. You know that not only is it curved, it meets the apple right here. You have to add in that little distance here. You can't just draw it like straight across. It doesn't look right. Because it curves, it meets the apple here. But the bottom of the apple, it meets it here. Let's look at the top now. You didn't draw in the top, but you need to. You know that the top is not right here. That ain't where it at. Excuse my bad language. My bad grammar skills is probably the best way to say it. You know, it goes up and down and it's above this line. You have to trust what your eyes see in front of you. Don't make assumptions. What is in front of you? Just be blunt and literal in this when you're drawing from still lifes or from observation. Blunt and literal. What is in front of you? Is it there? Yes or no? There's not a, do you see it? Yes or no? There's not a way to just go, well, we know this corner is behind the apple. You're not going to draw the corner. You don't see the corner. The apple's in front of it. So, do you see this back corner? No, you don't. The apple's there. So, there's this box here. We know that the line right here of the box is above the top of this. But it is not as tall as this box here. It is not as tall as this one here. We know that it has a line back here. Now, you do not draw this cup right there on the very line. It will look like it's on the very edge. You can tell that the cup is a little bit more forward than the edge, so it appears to be on the box. Say, now we can break the cup down. It's just a curved line here, cylinder, curved line. Start of a cylinder, curved line. And then it's just a straight line at the top. It's not really curved, it's just a straight line. Then of course you have the shape of an ear right here for the handle. And it's 2 lines. So, let's keep looking. The corner of this box is only to here on the cup. Should you draw it all the way up here? No. You should not draw it all the way up there because that's not where it's at. You should draw it here. That's where it's at. And you do that just by using your pencil to look at it, hold it out, and just go, oh, that's the distance. You've seen artists do that where they hold their pencil, their paintbrush and stuff out in front of them, and they got one eye closed, and they've got a thumb on it, and they're moving possibly their thumb back and forth, and they're tilting it up and vertical, horizontally and vertically. That is them measuring. They're going, okay, how far is this from this? That is just visual measurement. So, the next thing we're going to talk about is framing. Now, whenever you're drawing like this, we have a frame here. What if your drawing is like this, if your paper is like this, you've cut off the frame, right? So you've cut off portions of the frame. That's okay. But what if we did this? I'm going to change my coloring to blue. So what if we just drew this right here inside this frame? Let's zoom in on it just so you can go, oh. Let me get over here. We cut off some of it. Now we don't have the apple as reference. We know that this down in here is at the bottom of our frame. There's a little knob here. We don't even know what this is. If the blue is the edges of our paper, we don't know what this is down here. We just see a knob. We see 2 boxes, a knob, and a cup. So you would draw the cup out first, and then you would add these in, because that is the most prominent thing in this composition. So, but what if we did it a different way? What if we let's just take that off, add in a new layer. What if we did it like this? What if we cut some of the cup off? So now, we don't have this or the cup in the image. Let me zoom out one more. We've got some of the cup, but we can't tell what it is. We just know it's a bottom and a rounded form. It could be a jar, it could be anything. We just have this box, part of this box and an apple, and maybe a sliver of this jar now inside this frame. So now you would draw the apple and then the box, then the cup and the other box and these other little pieces. Because now you don't have as many references to go off of. So you have to use whatever the most prominent object is in a composition, depending on what you're planning on doing. You can cut off pieces of a composition and just zoom in on certain parts. But when you do that, you have to make sure that the frame, the edges of your paper, in other words, is in the correct position. Your drawing has to match this. If you're only going to draw this portion here, your whole paper needs to be filled up. You can't just draw this super tiny. Say you drew this like really tiny and your paper is just as big as this original paper. That'll look weird. You'll have to draw out the whole composition. So whatever is within this frame is what you will draw. If you are planning on using this much of the composition, then you better fill your paper up and make it look about the same size. If you don't, it looks weird. It doesn't look right. You're like, Ms. Allen, this doesn't look right. Well, you didn't fill your paper up. You didn't draw it as... You have to draw the other objects because you didn't zoom it in all the way. Or you didn't zoom out. You didn't do enough, basically. You have to fill your paper up. Now, your drawings look better if you draw large. It's also easier to work on details. It's easier to go, well, I need to draw the stem of the apple right here. Or the apple has some spots in the coloring that I need to work on. You know, it's easier to do it large than it is to do it small. Some of y'all draw teeny tiny. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you have this gigantic space of paper that is just sitting empty. Your composition is sitting in an abyss, just in the void. Don't put your stuff in the void. Just fill your paper up. You have to fill the whole paper up, because if you don't, it's gonna look weird. Now, when you get older, I'll show you tricks for, or not quite when you get older, but if you advance into Art 2 and above, or possibly occasionally I might show this to you in 7th and 8th grade and 9th grade, when you are Art 1, basically 7th and 8th grade or Art 1, I might show you a trick that is kind of a shortcut that I've used, and I've used with AP Kids and such whenever they didn't quite get the drawing big enough. I'll show a trick that I've used with that. But until then, you do need to learn. You have to get your proportions correct. And that's what this is about. Proportion. Proportion is how big something is compared to something else. Think about when you were little. Think about when you were little. I'm gonna draw it. I'm gonna completely draw it. And it might take a minute because it likes to freak out whenever I create a new document. So yeah, it starts going not responding, and then it'll bring it up. But think about when you were little and you made all those drawings of, say, you in your yard with your house and the sun in the corner and the tree, maybe a dog or a flower. The proportions on that were not correct because you drew you the same size as the house, the tree, and the flower. You are not the same size as your house. That is disproportionate. The flower is not as big as the tree. So if you were to put a flower and a tree right next to each other and they were the same exact size, that's a big flower. That's a real big flower. So, this is not going to want to work. My computer does not have enough RAM to really deal with running screen capture and Krita at the same time. So, yeah. I'm hoping this works better whenever I get my husband's laptop. He has a gaming laptop. It's probably has a little bit more space to run this stuff. But basically, think about it. I'm sure you can picture it in your mind. You can see back into your head, oh yeah, I used to do that all the time. So that's proportion. If you correct it to where your house was really, really big and you were the correct size to fit through the door that you drew on the house, if the tree was similar in size or taller than the house, and the flowers were smaller than you, that would be more proportionate. So you can tell in real life if somebody is really disproportionate. It looks disfigurement, basically. You have to get proportions correct. If you don't, it looks weird. These are the secrets. Is get proportion. Does it look like how it's supposed to look like? Does things... Oh, there it is. See, this is what I was talking about. Oh, dear. Hang on. Let me fix my... There we go. We'll make it bigger. See, you drew a line. And you got a house. You got a tiny door, but you're this big. You always drew it as a stick figure. You had a tree, it looked like broccoli. You had a flower that's just as big as the tree. Got a sun in the corner. Don't you put no suns in my corners. Sun doesn't appear in the corners. Sun ain't got no sunglasses. Ain't got no Ray-Bans on. So. And you would say, oh, well, this is just me and the flower are just close up. Well, not according to the horizon line, you're not. So, that's what I mean. Now, the house looks like it is further back, but what about when you drew the house, like, literally on the same plane as you here? Now that doesn't look right. That looks like a giant trying to invade. So, if you were to draw yourself... Let me do this. Let me just... No, that's not what I wanted. Go away. Go away. Go away. Yay. Okay. So, like, maybe if you were to draw the house... Oh, dear. Blast roll. There we go. On the plane. And you have the door. You would draw yourself at least able to fit inside the house. If you drew the flower, it's still a big flower, but it's believable. If you drew the tree, about that size. What looks more believable? This? Or this? That's that other one, right? This one here. This looks more like you fit inside the house, that you own this home. Here. Oh, you often added a chimney. Smoke coming out despite it being the middle of summer. Now, do y'all get what I'm saying? If you have any questions, please feel free to comment or send a private comment on to me. I'll try and clarify the best I can. So, or I'll do another demonstration where I'm physically drawing it instead of doing it on the digital program, and do a little bit better video where I could do it that way. But other than that, that is basically how you frame and you measure your work. You'll use that well within drawing still lifes and observational drawing, because you're going to try and get the proportions correct by measuring everything else. And depending on the frame, so here, what if I did that? There's a frame. I cut the tree off, I cut the rest of the paper off. So depending on the frame, let me just delete the layers. You would get everything out. Now, I'm going to add a layer. That's not adding a layer. I think that's making a copy. Come on. Oh, that's not it. That's add a layer. Add me a layer. Okay. So, if I were to draw, say, that composition, I would not draw the apple, the jar, and the box. Like this. And get the cup. Seriously. Look at all this space! It's empty! It's in the void! You're gonna draw it, if it'll let me back out enough. You're gonna draw it pretty large. Oh, it backed out me making a new layer. Oh Lord. Come on. There we go. Now, you're gonna draw it filling the space. That's not tall enough. Now, yeah, it's still not tall enough right there. Doesn't that look better? That looks better, doesn't it? Because I filled my page up. I drew large. I filled it up. And that's how you frame and measure. You don't just draw it teeny tiny like I did before. Fill your paper up. Looks better. And it's easier to do details. I can fix the apple a little bit better now. I can work on the bots a little bit more. It's better just to fill up your space. Because then you're actually going to get an accurate drawing. And it's not going to look like you just drew some teeny tiny little area. It's actually easier to draw large like this. So, I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I'm going to see y'all in the next video. If you have any questions, again, feel free to ask me over Google Classroom or in class. I'll make sure to try and explain it the best I can. There's also this small little tips and such to help guide you in your sketchbook. So I will see y'all in the next video.